Hello and welcome back to the Nash Metal Production channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another album of the week. This, of course, is episode number 61, and for this 61 episode of Album of the Week, well, since this past Tuesday saw Judas Priest's sixth studio album, and in so many ways was definitely their breakthrough studio album for at least their first breakthrough studio album. British Steel hit 40 years old this again on Tuesday, which of course on that same day also saw Iron Maiden's debut hit 40 years old, which I already covered as last week's Album of the Week. So for this week I am of course covering the second album there, which again, British Steel. Oh boy. Where do I completely start with British Steel? Other than the fact that last year I already talked about their live album, Unleashed in the East, which this album definitely followed. But of course it followed their fifth studio album, Killing Machine. Which of course the Killing Machine I've already covered as well here on the channel before. Definitely how that album really saw the transition from the real dark and almost sinister feel of their 70s period, which definitely peaked with Stained Class. But with Killing Machine really saw that transition. I think with British Steel, did I say British Steel or Killing Machine? I think I said Killing Machine, where you really we're kind of seeing the change a little bit. It was a transitional album. But British Steel, on the other hand, you really could see that change here. One of the other changes is with the lineup changes. This, of course, is the debut for, of course, drummer Dave Holland, who, of course, was prior to Judas Priest, was playing in bands like Trapeze, for example, which that band was almost like an early. Technically, wasn't really a super group, but nowadays they look at because of Glenn Hughes and I think Mick Moody. I just already kind of fucked up. I think the guitar player for a Trapeze who would later join Whitesnake, and of course Dave Holland, which of course would join Judas Priest, who would replace Les Binks, who of course left after the Unleashed in the East album. But also this was even the debut studio album for, of course, producer Tom Allom, who of course began producing for Judas Priest on Unleashed in the East, but here this was the first real real studio album for Tom Allom producing, and you definitely can feel that for sure with this album, how drastically different in terms of mixing and production and overall tone wise from Killing Machine. But again, let's definitely go the biggest change is how you could definitely can hear a bit of the simplistic stuff that they were flirting with Killing Machine is starting to really kind of take control on this album. But because again, this album produced two major hits that are still radio staples to these day, and are still played live to this day. That's of course being Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight. Even United being part of the third hit was more of a minor hit off this one, but it really didn't overstay. It didn't really kind of stay up in the radio, at least for a long time. It didn't. Not like with Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight, which are those two are like dominant. So United didn't make much of a dent as far as a hit single, but those two for sure. And of course, those are the biggest commercial, probably the most simplest. Breaking the Law is even more simplistic than Living After Midnight. But not that I don't hate those songs. They're fun. I mean, as a kid, getting into Judas Priest, I do. I mean, I played those two songs quite a bit, but still, I think if anything, the real meat for this album was, of course, the opener, Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, Grinder, even The Rage and Steeler. But both Rapid Fire and Steeler are great songs. I mean, almost do you? I guess I could call them bookend songs because I mean, a Rapid Fire was a great fucking opener, and Steeler, since of course again Rapid Fire was a fast, energetic way to open up the album, which Steeler, on the other hand, it was a great, since again, in that same vein, a little faster still and just as more aggressive, it was a great way to end it. That would get fucked up at the U.S. release when they decide to switch up the track listing and make Breaking the Law the opening song, and for side B be Living After Midnight to open up side B. Yeah, great fucking idea, guys. That's great. So kind of fucking up a little bit of the momentum for that. So I already threw in the little difference between the UK pressing and US pressings. Though it seems like with a lot of the frequent CD releases, it's all reverted back to the original UK track listing, which is the best track listing and the preferred track listing for this album, that is for sure. But I mean, you got plenty of these fucking tracks, I mean, again, like Rapid Fire and Steeler, are just fucking great songs. And of course, Metal Gods and The Rage and Grinder. And Grinder is just a very meaty, just, oh god, it's a fucking great track in its own right. Though it has a simple feel to it, but it's still heavy. It's just a fucking, has a real great pace to it. I mean, it's very stomping in ways, but like almost kind of marching like. Same thing with Metal Gods is probably the one that's got the real marching feel to it. It's a classic track, and I like how how Rapid Fire transitions to Metal Gods. It's just a great way that how they did that. Besides the other one, I think another personal favorite I actually like on this one is You Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise, which is one of the, kind of similar in terms of Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight as far as really simplistic and but it's got a hook to it. And it's also one of those songs when prior to this one I wasn't completely familiar with because it wasn't one of those real big hits off the sound, but it feels like it should be. And of course it definitely kind of shows what they would probably head in with songs like You've Got Another Thing Coming off of Screaming for Vengeance. It's got that almost similar feel to it, almost. So it's definitely has that. And again, that's another song I've got a personal resonance to. But this song is I definitely dig You Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise a lot off this sound too. I think the only song I really don't give a fuck about is probably United. It's bad enough that it's already a repeat of Take on the World off of Killing Machine, which is not my favorite song anyways off of Killing Machine, but I guess they thought since it probably did well for them for that album, they wanted to repeat it. And for a while it did work, but because of Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight probably taking more of the prize as far as being big hit songs and how those were more well received, I guess, from the higher ups at the record label and those at the radio stations. It definitely for sure overshadowed United, and probably for better reasons actually. Even though I think they're overplayed to death, fucking Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight. United, I can really have no problem with them skipping over as being a big hit. I'm kind of glad it didn't really reach that level because of it. It's a very, again, another run-of-the-mill fucking sing-along track that they somewhat did with Take on the World, and they want to do it again, and so it's like, whatever. It's the weakest song for sure off of British Steel. I mean, even if you have your personal preference of songs like Breaking the Law or Living After Midnight being the weakest songs, and that's mostly judging off the fact that how overplayed those songs are, but really objectively, United is the weakest song off this album, that's for sure. It's so run of the mill, it's so filler. It's not it compli almost in a way kind of breaks up even the momentum. Because at least there's even a little bit of merit to at least Breaking the Law. There's at least a little bit of merit to Living After Midnight, even at how so overplayed they are. And the way I look at those songs and how overplayed they are is the same way I look at AC/DC's Highway to Hell in some cases, or Back in Black. Just for real examples, or even Van Halen's first two albums, like for example, like Running with the Devil, or or just some of those songs, for example, are just so overplayed, or Panama. It's in that same category of overplayedness, but they're not completely terrible tracks. It's just that they have been played to death by the radio, but United is pretty much objectively one of the weakest songs off the sound. So I already kind of went on pretty long already talking about how fucking weak United is and how it breaks up the pacing at least for this album. Because at least after United, you don't have to be old to be wise. I think in a way it comes back and saves things. And of course, The Rage, which is a great deep cut off this album. Of course, when I saw Judas Priest back in 2015, they added the song The Rage into the setlist, which the first time they probably played that song live was actually when they were doing the 30th anniversary for for British Steel, which what I had got in my hand is the 30th anniversary CD DVD copy, and the DVD has the live recording or live video of the 30th anniversary show, where they're playing the whole entire album live, and The Rage was like the first time they probably played that song live. And definitely, so since then, it's been now kind of one here and there, kind of occurs here in their set list, which is, I think, is cool. So when I saw them live and they pulled that one out, I thought that was fucking badass. I thought that was cool. I think it's a very much an underrated song from Judas Priest. So with that, this is definitely a album. It's not my personal favorite Judas Priest album, but still, every time I do throw it on, I still enjoy the album. It's definitely one of Judas Priest's really first big album before examples like Screamer for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith, and of course an album like this with songs like Rapid Fire and Steeler and Metal Gods and The Rage. You Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise really saw where they were heading. Until they kind of fucked it up with Point of Entry, but I'll save that for whenever I have to cover that on its 40th anniversary next year. So I'm going to save all of my opinions for that video. So at that, definitely, British Steel, it's a great album for sure in its own right. Not my favorite, but it's definitely, in some ways, was deserving at least of what it got. They definitely were going in somewhere, even though, again, I love the 70s material. But in terms of where they were going to head with sounds like Screamer for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith, this was a great starting, a really great sign of what they were going to do with those two albums. So with that, definitely, since this album hit its 40th anniversary this past week, definitely let me know since you're probably one of those. I probably was there when this came out. Definitely leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. But it's also with all these 40th anniversaries since me talking about it, you probably are now inspired to pull it out one more time just to listen to it. So that I hope you all enjoyed. It's every special Sam out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.